Hello, apple farmers. You're welcome back to our channel, Al-Abraar Apple Farm Diary. If this is your first time here, you're welcome. I'd like you to subscribe to our content, to click the notification bell so that you're updated of new releases once we upload. Also, like this video and share it to spread the message of apple farming across Nigeria and indeed tropical Africa and the rest of the world. For our existing subscribers, I'd like to say a big thank you. Your words of encouragement have been coming in through the comment section, and we quite appreciate it. And it gives us the motivation to want to, continue updating you on what is happening with our apples. So in my last video, I talked about the threats and opportunities that open grazing of animals present to a would-be apple farmer in northern Nigeria, and specifically in Nigeria at large. And that may also apply to your country. I don't know where you may be watching from, but the phenomenon of open grazing is not only a Nigerian one. I know quite some number of African countries also have nomadic herders that move around with their cattle, and the phenomenon can be, something that you can relate with even if you are not in Nigeria. So, but in today's video, I would like to talk to us about some 4 agri-businesses that can integrate very well with apple farming, especially if you are doing it on a very large scale, on a commercial basis. So the first agri-business I would like to talk about is cattle rearing. And here I mean in a zero grazing system, where the cattle are not moving all over the place. You have an enclosure where you keep them, and then you provide feeds. And as I said in my last video, the cattle are going to provide some other byproducts for you. Chief among them is the cow dung, which you can use as manure on your apples, and you can use them either directly, or you can channel the cow dung first into a biodigester, where it will digest and release methane gas, which can be used for cooking and for firing engines and other farm implements. And then the bioslurry is then applied to your apple farm directly. And as I said, cow dung can be cheap, but when you're doing Wambugu apple farming and you want to do it organically on a very large scale, when we're talking about 1,000, 2,000 trees, then the amount of cow dung that you need for all those trees can become enormous. And trying to buy them all the time can really, push up your costs of production, which you can actually minimize by keeping your own herds of cattle. Let's say some 10 to 15 or 20 cows. And especially if those cows are the milk varieties, the ones that give you milk, you can easily be getting milk from them, as well as getting the cow dung. And the milk you are getting from them can be sold either directly to milk buyers, and there are quite a number of yogurt making companies around here in northern Nigeria. Like in Zaria here where I am, there is the Sun Yogurt, which is a company along Zaria Kano Road. They use fresh cow's milk as part of their yogurt. So you can go into a sales agreement with those kind of people and be a supplier of milks to them. Another place where they do fresh cow's yogurt is the NAPRI. There is a National Animal Production Research Institute here in Zaria, and they have a section for producing a NAPRI yogurt. And they buy, they have cows where they milk also, but that is usually not enough. So they buy from smallholder farmers to augment their milk supply for their daily yogurt production. So those kind of people can be your market for your milk. And what you're getting from the milk can feed the cattle. And the dung, the cow dung, therefore becomes something like almost free that you are getting and putting right into your apple farms. And so that is one way or one business, agribusiness, that you can integrate perfectly into your apple farm if you want to go very large scale. Now, the second business, and which is very related to this first one, is aquaculture, that is fish farming. Now, it is in the same vein as cattle, keeping cows and getting the dung as your organic fertilizer for your apples. The wastewater from fish farming is also a very rich organic fertilizer. And this water, typically you change the water twice or three times a week. And for most, farmers that are into fish farming, they just pour this water on the floor and all that. So if you're an apple farmer, it will make a great deal of sense to have a few, even if it is plastic container fish ponds. Not necessarily because of the fish primarily, but because you can use the wastewater as your water for watering your apples, which will deliver both water and manure at the same go. Unlike in cow dung, where you may still need to give your apples normal water in addition to applying the cow manure. So with fish water, it is both water and manure in one. So you just discharge it straight, either by drip irrigation into your apple farm, or you pump it into a tank, and then from that tank you allow it to go by drip irrigation into your apples, at intervals every 2 or 3 times a week. So, and then of course you need to just feed your fishes. They will grow and give you this fertilizer rich fish water, and by the time they are table size, you dispose of them and you restock. And that way you integrate fish farming into your apple business. Now, I'm talking about this as a business. I'm not talking about hobby fish keeping or this thing. I'm talking of someone who wants to do this as a serious business. And if you are into this as a business, it can actually be a full-time work. It can be a full-time work. Maybe you personally may not be the one doing, but you do a great deal of supervision, and then you have other farm workers that are doing all these other jobs on a day-to-day basis. So, but it will integrate perfectly, because in organic apple farming, the main idea is that there is zero application of synthetic chemicals, synthetic fertilizers. So in order to get organic fertilizers and organic pesticides and all these things, you have to use, it from organic sources, get things from organic sources, either from other animals or from other plants. So that is the whole essence. And as I said in my previous video, organically farmed produce commands the highest price, even in an international market. And that is why you want to go organic. And when you want to export and all that, there are certifications that you need to get, and they may need to visit your farm to actually see your practices. So, all this will help you, to get those certifications very quickly, and, clear the coast for you to begin to penetrate international markets with your apples. And even domestically, organically grown apples are sweeter, they are better, they are not sprayed with chemicals and all that. So this brings me to the third agribusiness that can integrate very perfectly and very well with apple farming. And this business is the business of beekeeping, or what is called apiculture. So beekeeping, when you have a very large apple farm, you need pollinators, because the Wanbugu apple does not self-pollinate. It needs pollinators. So if there are a few of them, you may just pollinate them by hand. But when you are talking of thousands of trees, then you need bees. And the bees and other flying insects are the best pollinators. So you may need actually to keep beehives, scattered around in your farm. The advantage of having beehives is that it provides pollination round the clock, all around the year. So, and it allow, because if the flowers don't get pollinated when they bloom, then they fall off after some number of days if they are not pollinated. It's only the ones that are pollinated that now gets to develop into the fruit and becomes a mature fruit. So you want pollinators around as soon as your apples are in bloom, because once you don't have enough pollinators, all the flowers that don't get pollinated will fall off. So you want these bees to live on your farm basically. So, and if the bees pollinate, they are just doing their own business. They are trying to get nectar to form honey and build their colony. But for you as the apple farmer, they are helping you to pollinate your farm. And then as a byproduct, these bees are going to produce honey. So invariably, you will get to harvest honey, periodically, even though that is not primarily what you set out for. You just wanted the bees to be around to do the pollination. But they are going to provide honey, just like in the case of cows, they are going to provide milk or beef, if that is what the cows are made for. Or in terms of fish, they are going to provide you some income at the end of a cycle, in addition to giving you the fish water. So in the case of bees, they're going to provide you honey, which can also be harvested and sold. And honey commands a very high price in our environment. A liter of honey in Nigeria, the last time I bought, is about 4,000 naira. So, and some of this honey may even be adulterated honey, not pure natural honey. So, but from your farm, which is something you're going to do passively. You're not going to buy the bees, unlike cows and uh, and fish. You're not going to buy the stock. You only set some traps and attract the wild bees to come and settle in your hives. And once they have a conducive place to settle in, you are in business. So, and you're also not going to do much in terms of feeding the bees or anything, unlike in cattle and even in aquaculture, they are going to be feeding the fishes in order to make them grow. The bees, they will basically do their thing on their own, and at the end help you with pollination as well as with honey, high quality honey at the end of the day. Now, the fourth agri-business that integrates very perfectly with apple farming is the business of rabbit farming. Rabbit farming. Why rabbit farming? That is because rabbit urine has been found to be a very effective pesticide. Most of the pests that you're going to deal with, fungal and bacteria in your apple farm, can be effectively treated with rabbit urine. So in some parts of Africa, especially in East Africa, Kenya, Uganda, axis to be specific, they have gone very far with with rabbit farming and collecting rabbit urine. And there are a ton of YouTubers out there that are into that business. And their rabbit urine is sold in liter. It is gold. So you keep the rabbits and you sell to other farmers, who may just come to buy a liter or two or three, mix with water and spray their crops with. So if you are going to be a big time apple farmer, you are going to have 1,000 or 2,000 or 3,000 apple trees. Now you can agree with me that you can't be buying one liter of this thing from somebody else. We need tens of thousands of liters, over the course of a year to keep your farm clean of infection. So it may make sense for you to keep your own rabbitry and collect your own rabbit urine at your own farm. And all these businesses I'm talking about can be done on the same land where the apples are planted. In between your rows of apples, you can have your beehives, and in between your rows of apples, you can have your fish tanks to hold your fish, and just somewhere on the side you can have your animal farm. You can have your cattle shed. So it doesn't have to be several pieces of land, several pieces of business. No. And that is why I call it integrated. You integrate right into the same place and this thing where you are. And then you use even basically the same labor, the same workers that are going to work, in your farm for your apples are the ones that will tender to the fishes, tend to the cattle, and basically you just have some workers that are walking around and taking byproducts from one section of the farm and feeding the other section of the farm, and everything is working in a very harmonious and integrated fashion. So again, these businesses can stand alone. Individually, they can stand alone. You don't have to do everything. So even if you want to be an apple farmer, maybe not in that large scale, you can just be your apple farmer. Another person can be just a fish farmer. And then you as an apple farmer can have an agreement with a fish farmer to get his wastewater from him. And in any case, he's going to pour it away. So he may as well give you, and then you feed your apples with it. In the same way, you can have an agreement with a herdsman around your area, especially if you're in northern Nigeria. Usually where they keep these cows, there is a lot of dung everywhere, and they're basically not doing anything with it because they are more concerned with their cattle than with the cow dung. But you as the apple farmer need the cow dung. So you can go into an agreement so that they keep all the cow dungs for you, they pack it for you, and then you come periodically and just come and move them with a vehicle to your farm and all that. So you may not even really need to do them yourself as the apple farmer. But if you do them yourself, in my opinion, that integration that it provides and the fact that one section of your farm is feeding another section, it will really cut your cost. It will cut a lot of cost, and the overall output of your business as a farmer will be enhanced. So this is where I would like to draw the curtain on today's video. I'd like to hear your comments in the comment section about other type of businesses that you feel can integrate very well with apple farming, or support apple farming. And I'm really curious to know in your area, wherever you may be, what are those businesses that you think, agri-businesses that can go perfectly with your apple farming, and how apple farmers can take advantage of it. So until I come your way again with another video, stay blessed and keep farming.